I'm sick and tired of hearing about what a great hockey team the Soviets have. Screw them. This is your time. Now go out there and take it.
What if I told you that a group of college athletes managed to beat the best team in the world in their sport? That for 3 periods, they managed to hold off and defeat a global superpower that appeared to be invincible. For one day, they were number 1. They proved once and for all that miracles can happen. If you were a kid growing up in the 2000s who played sports, odds are you've seen this movie at least a couple of times. It's the story of people overcoming challenges they had never imagined and a coach that pulled greatness out of them. Today on the 100 Movie Marathon, we're going to be talking about number 86, Miracle. Miracle was released on February 20th, 2004 and tells the story of the 1980 United States men's hockey team. The movie chronicles Coach Herb Brooks as he pushes a group of amateur college athletes from across the country to be their absolute best with some, let's say, questionable coaching tactics. I'm always hesitant to talk about spoilers with movies, but seeing as to this is about a real event, I'll give you a warning right now that if you haven't seen the movie, I'm going to go into details about what happens in the movie and what actually happened in real life. So this is your warning right now. If you haven't seen Miracle, pause this video, go watch it, and then come back. Like I said before, Miracle takes place in the period between the late 70s to the 1980 Winter Olympics. This was a period of high tension for everyone around the globe as the Cold War was pestering on and on and on, as displayed in the opening sequence depicting relevant news events from the 60s to the 70s. Whenever I was doing research for this film, I found myself going down an internet rabbit hole full of interviews conducted by Coach Herb Brooks, the actors, director, and even the real-life players. The making of this movie was just so interesting that I couldn't stop reading and listening at what all took place to get this movie where it is today. So the first thing that I feel compelled to talk about in this video is I love doing research on each movie on this list. I feel that doing so allows me to get to know the movies I love even more. It also grows my appreciation for the art of filmmaking and just how hard it is to actually make a movie. If anyone tells you that it's easy to make a movie, they clearly have never watched a behind-the-scenes featurette. And the making of this movie is absolutely insane, so let me start with the casting process. The filmmakers all wanted this movie to feel as authentic as possible. Nowadays, we have technology that allows editors to superimpose an actor's face onto an athlete's body in post-production. The example that comes to mind now is what was done whenever Margot Robbie played Tonya Harding in I, Tonya. However, that technology just wasn't around at the time Miracle was made. So to help make the hockey scenes feel real while also not cutting corners and making sure that it actually looked like the actors were playing hockey, director Gavin O'Connor and the producers made the decision that it would be easier to teach hockey players how to act than it would be to teach actors how to play hockey. This resulted in full-out hockey tryouts that were the first round of auditions in Los Angeles. All of the actors, with the exception of just a few, had to pass the hockey test before they could move on to the actual acting auditions. So when you see these guys skating and playing hockey in the film, all of that is real. No stunt doubles, no visual effects. The guys who you see playing the characters are the ones suiting up and hitting each other on the ice. And these guys had to be good at hockey because they had to recreate something like 100 actual plays used by the team in real life. So some days on set were just straight up a hockey practice. In fact, this film developed what's known as the sled cam that served as a sort of dolly cam that could follow the actors' movements around but while they were playing hockey. I can only imagine the stress that camera guy was going through while filming those hockey scenes. In fact, cinematographer Dan Stoloff actually got bloodied up while shooting a scene, resulting in 14 stitches and was back out there on the ice in 45 minutes. While reflecting on making the film, he's quoted as saying that he actually thought it was cool. I think that story should give you a good idea of what the culture was like on that set. Everyone from the get-go was not only out there to make a great movie, but was out there to pay the real story respect. Which brings me to the next thing that I want to talk about here, which is You can tell whenever you're watching a movie based on a real story whether or not the filmmakers actually care about the events that happened. A lot of times you get films that cut corners or they Hollywood up the actual story that was great on its own. That's why when I see filmmakers like these, I'm even more impressed with the movie. You can see when you look at the lengths these guys had to go to make the film feel real that everyone here respected the event a lot and didn't want to mess up the adaptation. Director Gavin O'Connor is praised for knowing how to make a great inspirational sports film in Hollywood. Some of his other work includes 2011's Warrior, a great underrated movie if you haven't seen it, and most recently The Way Back, which sort of flew under the radar, I think because it came out right at the onset of the pandemic. So it makes sense that this is the guy you would want to direct a movie like this about arguably the most inspirational moment in actual sports history. From recreating the actual scenes to casting actors / hockey players who looked remarkably similar to the actual guys. Seriously, if you check out a side-by-side, it's freaky how close they got it. To portraying the events off the ice as they actually happened, it's clear that O'Connor and writers Eric Guggenheim and Mike Rich wanted the story on the screen to truly reflect the one we all saw play out on the ice 42 years ago. Okay, maybe not all of us. I know it may come as a huge shock to a lot of you guys, but I was not alive in 1980 when this happened, so sorry. But they really went the extra mile for Miracle. It's things that no one would ever know the difference of that they honed in on, such as how the players were holding their hockey stick during certain moments of games, or what it was actually like when the last player of the team got cut. They didn't have to make it as accurate as they did, but they decided to anyway. And why? Well, the only thing that I can come up with is that these are just fantastic filmmakers who are dedicated to a story, which, as a viewer, that's all you can really ask for. One of my favorite stories that I read while making this was what the filmmakers did with legendary broadcaster Al Michaels. If you don't know Al Michaels, the guy has been commentating sports for literally 50 years. Boxing, baseball, basketball, football, hockey, obviously. The guy's done it all. Well, as it turns out, he was the commentator of the actual Miracle on Ice back in 1980. So what the filmmakers did is they brought him in to re-record his dialogue from the game so they could include it in the movie. Except the last call of the game whenever Al Michaels screams, "Do you believe in miracles?" Because the filmmakers and Michaels both agreed they couldn't recreate the excitement of that moment. Whenever I wrote that last part, I actually got chills and I have them right now, I'm not gonna lie. I love that so much. This film could have been made in a much easier way, but it wasn't because everyone involved actually cared. If anything, they cared too much, and I appreciate it. If all filmmakers went into their stories with this amount of passion, we would get incredible movies all the time. Sure, maybe the whole where they're holding the hockey stick thing is a little bit of overkill, but I love the dedication. Good call, guys. But how could this story not get someone pumped up and ready to go accomplish anything, including making a movie about it? Which brings me to my next point. This is the epitome of an underdog story. The fact that all of this happened is absolutely wild. A group of amateurs actually beat the best team in the world on the biggest stage in the world. In front of everyone in all of the lights, they achieved something that everyone thought was impossible. How does that not make you want to get up and do something? Listening to Herb Brooks speak about the events is so interesting. He talks about how a lot of coaches push their players to be the best, but he preferred to pull greatness out of them. These players were gonna be great and ready for their moment whether they liked it or not. Coach Brooks is actually quoted as having regretted the real-life occurrence of the again scene from the film, which if you haven't seen the film, I'll describe it now. After an exhibition match against Norway in which the US tied with a score of 3-3, Coach Brooks wasn't exactly pleased with his players' performance. He decided that if they weren't going to work hard during the game, they were going to work hard afterward. He commanded them to get back on the ice where he proceeded to make the players skate what are now referred to as Herbies, which are basically gassers but with skates on for an hour. Now, Coach Brooks said that he regretted this moment in hindsight, but actually a lot of the players came out and said that this was the moment that they united as a team against their coach. So if anything, it brought the team closer together. And that term team is so important here. When asked about what was the most gratifying part of winning a gold medal, Coach Brooks said that it was the fact that the group was recognized for having accomplished something, not an individual. In real life, when they were looking for players to fill out the team, Coach Brooks put a heavy importance on how a player was going to contribute toward the team environment that they wanted. He knew that in order to beat the best teams in the world, they needed to be unified as a team on and off the ice. They needed to come together and care about one another in order to be successful. This film should be shown to every member of a team sport, in my opinion, to just show them what you can accomplish when you put the group before the individual. You could literally win gold. While Coach Brooks' tactics were questionable at times, the proof is there that he accomplished what he set out to do. And a whole other layer to the success is added when you consider the fact that Herb Brooks was the last player cut from the 1960 Olympic team that went on to win gold. It's almost hard to believe that all of these events actually happened. I just think this movie is so inspiring. It's the story of a group coming together and accomplishing greatness against seemingly insurmountable odds. What more could you want out of a sports movie? Herb Brooks has a great quote that wasn't featured in the movie, and that's, "What are you willing to sacrifice for the unknown?" There's the unknown. What are you willing to sacrifice right now to get there? Whether or not you agreed with his tactics, this guy was a masterclass in how to get the best out of his players and inspire them to, I guess, believe in miracles. Much like the real-life players and coaches, the individuals who made this film truly came together as a team to accomplish something that many dream of, making a film that's remembered through time. This is consistently ranked among one of the best sports movies ever made, and probably the best hockey movie ever made. The passion the filmmakers showed reflects itself in the end product that is Miracle. It's the kind of movie that will inspire you to do things you never knew you were capable of doing. I mean, heck, the real life events will inspire you to do things that you never knew you were capable of doing. I love this film and try to watch it every year around the 4th of July. Miracle is a feat in sports filmmaking for what they were able to accomplish given the technology they had at the time. They made it feel real and truly paid honor to the real-life events and the people associated with it. Herb Brooks tragically passed away a few months before this film came out, and so in his honor, the filmmakers added a little dedication at the end of the movie saying, "He never saw it, he lived it." A touching tribute, and if I do say so myself, the filmmakers allowed us to live it as well, at least from a bird's eye view. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time on the 100 Movie Marathon.